Hello, it's Martin from Wisely Automotive, and in today's video we are discussing the extremely exciting topic of vehicle excise duty, in other words, road tax. All jokes aside, it's a very important subject and quite complicated, especially in the context of the BMW i3. In fact, it's so confusing that in the past we had to make dedicated flowcharts to help drivers understand what applies to them because of the many derivatives of the i3s there are. However, there are good news, and that's that it's all getting simplified in 2025, and also bad news because, unfortunately, the prices are going up across the board for pretty much everyone. Let's start with these older pre-facelift examples, because if they were registered before April of 2017, they had a nice perk of having free road tax, regardless of whether you went for the full electric version or the one with the little petrol onboard generator, the range extender. That is unfortunately changing now, and again, regardless of whichever drivetrain you have on board, they are going all up one bracket. Back in the day, it used to be based on CO2 emissions, so now they are going to be £20 a year. Still a fantastic deal overall, but obviously many people want some of the newer cars with the bigger batteries, for example. Which brings us on to vehicles registered after April 2017, because that's where we used to make the distinction between full electric cars, which would be £0 to tax for the year, and, for example, those BMW i3 range extenders, which were not zero emission, would be 180, with a little bit of a caveat, which I will get to in just a second. Even that £180 was a slightly discounted figure for it being an essentially plug-in hybrid. However, that's all getting scrapped now and standardized, so regardless of whether you go for a petrol, diesel, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, full electric, the annual tax rate is £195. The caveat is with cars like this one, a BMW i3S with the range extender on board and also lots of other optional extras, bringing the list price when new well over £40,000, which means it was subject to the luxury car tax. If you want to know when that expires, you can check that online on the DVLA website. That's because it's not counted directly from the first point of registration, in other words, the first tax point, but from the time it was re-taxed for the first time. So if you bought an X-demonstrator, for example, or a pre-registered example, it will be a little bit out of sync. But roughly speaking, that luxury car tax component disappears after the 6th birthday of the vehicle, at which point it is then subject to the same tax as any other hybrid or plug-in hybrid car from that era. And this has naturally resolved the confusion because BMW stopped selling the range extender with the introduction of the 120 ampere battery in the UK, which means that all i3s with the Rex on the market, even the most latest examples like this one, which was registered in late 2018, are now more than 6 years old. So it's safe to assume that all of those will be subject to the standard rate of £195 from April 2025. So while the situation got easier for the i3, I'm afraid it's a lot more complicated for all the other EVs, especially the newer stuff. Because now they are all subject to the luxury car tax if they were over £40,000 when brand new, regardless of drivetrain and whether they are zero emissions or not. So for example, if you were to buy a new BMW iX from a main dealer and it gets registered after April 2025, it will be subject to the luxury car tax because it's well over £40,000. It's like a £70,000 vehicle. However, there's still a little bit of a benefit with going electric because the first year of road tax is still decided by CO2 emissions. And with EVs being zero, they fall into the lowest bracket, which means the first year of road tax is only £10. However, going on from that, second year until the 6th year is the £195 plus the £410 luxury car tax component. That luxury component is not changing in price, and only then will the car drop to the standard rate of £195 for the rest of its life. This undoubtedly will create a little bit of a divide on the used market, just like what happened in 2017, where people will look for slightly older examples which do not attract the luxury car tax component, meaning they will save about £2,000, yet they still get a very similar vehicle from the get-go. There are some notes I need to mention here, because when looking at the luxury car tax, it's the list price of the brand new vehicle which matters. So while there are some manufacturers who are doing massive discounts on new cars, to, I suppose, make the customer feel like they're getting a fantastic deal, it's the price in the configurator which matters, including all the optional equipment. Off the top of my head, the Kia EV3 is a good example. If you want to go for the GT line, it squeezes in at just under £40,000, but picking any of the optional colors tips it over the threshold, which means you would be paying luxury car tax on a little electric Kia. Whether that's right or reasonable and whether that £40,000 threshold should be increased is a topic which I will not go into because, these days even a little Vauxhall Corsa very quickly approaches £40,000 and that's definitely not a luxury car. But the other thing which you need to keep in mind is pre-registered examples and how those will be taxed. Because if a car is pre-registered, I would assume, again, we don't deal with brand new cars, that dealer has already paid the £10 fee for the annual road tax for the first year. However, the moment you come to collect it, a car needs to be re-taxed when it changes keepers, so you will be paying either the standard rate or the standard rate plus the luxury tax if it was over £40,000 when brand new. So just things to keep in mind not to get stung. And lastly, for the sake of completeness, we can't forget about electric vans, because this used to be a huge incentive for businesses to go electric, with them being essentially free to road tax. However, this is also changing, and unfortunately they are not going to the same rate as electric passenger cars, but they will be brought in line with other commercial vehicles. So you are looking at essentially £335 a year to road tax one of these now. And let me conclude with a little hack for you so you can delay paying the road tax for as long as possible. You can go onto the DVLA website where you would normally tax your vehicle and re-tax it early. So you need to do this by the end of March 2025. But because you are taxing in whole months for the next 12 months, using the current tax rate, it means that you will get 12 months for £0. When you go in to do this, the system will scream at you saying that you are trying to re-tax a vehicle which is already taxed and that you will lose out on any previous tax, but you don't have to worry about it because obviously previously you've been paying £0. So this way you will basically start paying the full rate from March 2026. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. If you found the video helpful, definitely make sure to hit the like button. If you want to learn more about i3s, make sure to check out our i3 playlist right there. And if you want to learn more about EVs in general, definitely subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next one.